So I'm going to do DHCP today. I know on the study schedule it's down as self-study, but yeah, I also missed out a week in the schedule, so this will be the catch-up. So basically, we'll play around with DHCP, and so I'm going to do initially DHCP on the subnet here, hanging off of router R3, and we'll configure that to work. And then after that, we'll play around with DHCP relay, and then we'll do DHCP for IPv6. So at the moment, I think it's, yeah, the host has got a static IP address from memory. Yes, it does. And so basically here, I've got the configuration I'm going to do. Now, so of course you go into global config mode, and the first thing you normally do is you exclude addresses that you wish not to be included. And so there's the first 10 addresses of the subnet, so that just gives it a bit of space for, you know, servers and other such things like that. And we've also excluded the last one just because, hey, why not? I think I grabbed it from the slides anyway. And so that's fine. So that's actually done in global config mode. And then when you do the IP DHCP pool command, and then of course you need to give it a name. So it's LAN pool 4, because I'm just used to saying it's subnet 4. And so from there, then you can actually define the settings for it. And so let's open up the router. And so, of course, I've got there is the default router is the IP address of the router there, which is 192.168.168.4.1. And then I've got a DNS server set up here. It's only got one entry, it's a DNS entry, but and so that's the DNS server it's being pointed to, and just setting a domain name of example.com because hey, I can. And so if we do copy paste, you see the commands go in. I don't see any errors, and so there show run. And so you can see that the commands are now in the config. And so there's the DHCP pool there, the default router setting and the DNS server setting and the like. And of course, this is the addressing for the Ethernet network that's going to do it. So of course, that is the router's IP address. And so on. So, and so if we go here, set it to DHCP, it should get a DHCP address. Oops. Now, who's watched the video? I did do that intentionally. I missed out one step where I said a lot of people actually do miss things out. It's the network command. And so as you can see, it doesn't actually work. It's probably got a PIPA address at the moment. Yeah, 169.254. So of course, we need to tell that LAN pool the addressing range that it belongs to. Copy. Put that in there again now. And so, again, same pool name. So if we look at the running config now, show run, it's got that extra network command in there. And you know, it was the last thing I'll put in, but it's the first on the list because it is the most important, but it's one that too many people sadly leave out. And so that should now get an IP address. It already has. And so if we do this one to be DHCP as well, it got 12. And so that's all very good. Now, that's great. I've set a DHCP server there, and that works nicely. Now, this server, I've also set it up as a DHCP server. Now, as I said, I did do DNS as well, and so there's an entry here. I've just created a host name called server-pt, and that's its IP address there. So I might actually just test that I can connect to that, I suppose. So ping, now it's called server-pt, server-pt. Now hopefully that should do a name resolution. It's probably going to be an ART request or two on the way. Please. Bloody hell, come on. There we go. DNS request took some time, so if we do it again, that's certainly much quicker. So, so that seems to work. Of course, you can try out the web browsers as well. Server-pt, and so now it knows the name. It's all very nice and quick. So that host is working nicely. I did set this one, didn't I? So I did. So that's good. Now back to the server. So that's DNS. I don't know, so you can just type in a name and then an IP address and click add, and that's how you can do a DNS server on Packet Tracer. It's very nice. There is also DHCP that I've set up. Now, DHCP is a bit of a strange one on Packet Tracer. There's always this server pool that's there. And so you have to leave that alone pretty much. Don't play with it. So what you do when you want to put in another scope is you actually, this is the one I've created. I just gave it a name of LAN1 because 192.168.1.0 is the one I'm doing. And so the gateway address is that, still using the same DNS server. And so the first address is 1.10, and we've got 100 hosts as being the maximum. And so I created that. If you type that in yourself, you have to add the first time, but if I modified it now, I could just do save, basically. So the server pool one, because it always picks up your local address, you just have to sort of leave that. So yeah, it just will not play unless that server pool one is defined in there. But there's no one going to be using it anyway. And so I've got a DHCP server waiting to be used. And so, as I said, DHCP Relay is the perfect way to set it up so you can actually have more than one pool on a server. And so here, I think this host has still got a static at the moment, but so I've got some config here. And so on router 2, just go into interface G00, that IP help address command. Of course, that's the IP address of the server there. And so hopefully, after I do that, the host should get a DHCP address. So we'll paste it in. No errors. Cool bananas. So now let's see if we get an IP address. Again, it might be a little bit slow, but there we go. Got 11. This one here. We've got 12, and so we've got the settings. So again, just to the web browser, server-pt, and so that's working nicely. So I'm not sure if this actually gives us information on DHCP about leases. No, it doesn't give us any information at all on it, but anyway. So basically, that's where the hosts have gotten their IP address from, is from this server here. So that's the IP address helper. All right, so I'll also have a play around with a stateless pool. And so we've got we create this stateless pool. So this is, again, straight from the slides. We have, so we're creating the IPv6 DHCP pool, IPv6 stateless, and we're just creating a DNS entry and example.com. Now, I haven't actually done an entry for IPv6. Now, from memory, I think, now, IPv6 memories are normally quadruple A, yeah, so I might just do server and put this address in. I think it will work. Add, and so as you can see, I've added an entry called server, and that's its IP address. So hopefully that should work, actually. I think I've done it once before, but it was a while ago. So basically, this is the setup I've got for so this is the setup I've got. So there's the DNS server, and then there's the domain name, and then, of course, on the interface itself, we need to turn on, just make a relationship between this interface and the DHCP pool. And also, of course, we need to change that flag that's done in the router advertisement, the RA message, saying that, yes, here is your subnet, but it's also going to say, ask for other information. And so the host will send out an extra DHCP request. So here, do I have an IP address? I do. So I haven't done the configuration yet, but you'll just see that it gets an IP address, and that's great, but it didn't get a DNS entry, did it? So we might be able to improve that. And so if I tried, server, I'm not sure if this will work. Oh, it did. Hang on. Maybe because it's IPv4 that knows that entry. But anyway, I suppose what I could do, let's make IPv4 static and make IPv6 dynamic, so we know we're using IPv6. Let's try that again, eh? No, so it couldn't resolve that name, and so let's try it again. So I'll paste this config into R3, copy, paste. Looks like there's no error messages, so that's always good. So let's go back to this host again. Let's go to static, let's go to autoconfig, and as you can see, now there is an IPv6 DNS server. And so hopefully that server command will work. And hey presto, it did work. So, at least the DNS works. And so that's the basic rundown for it all, basically. It's not real tough. And so, yeah, so I'm just wondering whether this will work. Server probably won't work because no, doesn't have an IPv6 address. It's a bit of a strange setup, but anyway. Now, basically, the rest of this file here is how I configured the addressing on the routers. So it's probably not a bad idea to have a look at it, just as a bit of a reminder. And so I did R3 first because that was the one I did the DHCP server on. And so, of course, always need to have IPv6 unicast routing to get IPv6 to do anything at all advanced. And so you'll notice that, this is 192.168.4.0 for this subnet, but I've also made it 2001 a CAD 4. So I've tried to match those up, and so you'll notice that the subnets all sort of match, just so there's a little bit of consistency. But of course here, because I did 10 network addressing, I've actually had to change the addressing scheme there. But anyway, and so of course you've got an IPv6 address. You've also got the link local address. Because this is router 3, I've used FE83. And so this is, of course, the WAN link there, and I've had to put in a default route. So good revision on that. So that's the default route, 3.1, and so of course that's this router here. All other networks are that way. I've done a similar default route on R2, except I think I got my naming confused. But anyway, R1. So R1 here, basically it's got 1, 2, 3 connections, and so it's the 3 serial interfaces. Now, of course, the routing was a little more complex for this one because it's got to know how to get to these networks, but it also needs the default route. And so there's the default route, which aims it out on the 5 network, and then this one, of course, needs to be the 2 different routes. I didn't notice that. I was missing the differences in the addresses. So I thought I made a mistake. But so there's 2 static routes, of course, to the 2 subnets on R2 and R3. The ISP, again, because everything's this way as far as the ISP is concerned, in this network, not in the real world, of course, I've just done a default route out that way. I suppose I could have done a summary route of 2001 a CAD : as a destination. That probably would have worked, but I didn't. And so that's just the default route. Of course, in the real world, you'd need to have a static route, not a default route, into the network. And so, of course, this is R2 here, but I got to admit I didn't edit the link local addresses properly. I'm just curious. I suppose I used, if there was a dynamic routing protocol, there would have been a problem, but because I used the unicast address instead of link local address, IPv6 route. Because I used that, it's not actually causing a problem. So there's the static route there. Okay, so that's basically how it all sort of plugs together. So that's chapter 8, I think, from memory, is DHCP. And so that's it as far as DHCP is concerned. It's not particularly complex. So next week we'll actually be doing not access control, it's NAT, so network address translation. And so we'll be doing static NAT and as well as dynamic NAT and dynamic PAT. So that's the topic for next week. So yes, that was fairly quick, I suppose, today. Does anyone have any questions about any of the topics up until now? Okay, complete silence. All right, so what was I going to say? I had something planned and then I just lost it out of my head. And so, yeah, so we've got basically, we've got two more chapters to go. So it's network address translation next week, and then the final one is device discovery, management, and maintenance. And so I'll do a quick demo on that, but on the 17th of June, I'll also do a demonstration of a sample or a practical test or trial practical test, if you want to do that. So I'll demo that as well. So of course, 24th of June, as a reminder, is when we'll be doing the exam. So the exams. So that's the plan for that. And so of course, 1st of July is when we'll be resetting. So if there are no more questions, I'll close it off there, and I'll talk to you next week. Has everyone got access to the tests and everything like that? I actually am due to renew the tests at about 2:15 this afternoon. That's when most of them expire. So if you're trying it this afternoon and it's, if it's not working, hopefully it's just that short gap in between the old ones expiring and me activating the new ones. I can't actually activate the new ones until the previous ones have expired. It just sort of gets in the way. So, okay, so yeah, the test will be active, after 2:15 this afternoon. So if there's no more questions, I'll stop recording and I'll catch up with you all next week. Have a good one.